All right. So you sent over this really fascinating set of documents about the EU's Artificial Intelligence Act and, especially what it means for Ireland.
Yeah.
And we've got like the press release from the Irish ministers welcoming the act, along with, some more in-depth analyses and stuff. Clearly, this is something that's that you want to understand fully.
Yeah.
And rightly so. I mean, this is groundbreaking legislation.
It really is. It's the first of its kind globally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a big deal.
So I guess our mission today is to kind of unpack all this information.
Yeah.
And try to, give a clear picture of what the AI Act means, especially for, those of us here in Ireland.
For sure.
So let's start, I guess, with the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
That press release from the Irish ministers.
Okay.
They seem pretty enthusiastic about this act.
They are. They highlight two key things.
Okay.
Its global significance and its commitment to ethical AI and individual rights.
Yeah, that's a pretty tall order.
It is a tall order, but I think that's what makes it so groundbreaking.
Yeah, for sure.
It's ambitious.
So how does the act actually plan to achieve that?
That's where things get interesting.
Okay.
The act takes a risk-based approach.
Okay.
It categorizes AI systems based on their potential for harm.
So some AI is seen as riskier than others?
Exactly. Imagine a pyramid.
Okay.
At the very top, you have the unacceptable risk, AI, the stuff that's just banned outright.
Like what kind of things are we talking about?
Things like social scoring systems run by governments that judge citizens based on their behavior.
Oh, wow.
Or AI that's designed to manipulate people subliminally without their knowledge.
Yeah, I can definitely see why those would be, top concern.
Yeah, those are considered way too risky.
Right.
They're just not allowed.
Okay, so that's like the extreme end.
Yeah.
What about AI that's not outright banned, but, still could be problematic?
So that's where the high risk category comes in.
Yeah.
This is AI with the potential for serious negative impacts if it's not used responsibly.
Okay.
So things like facial recognition used for mass surveillance,
Mm-hmm.
AI systems that control critical infrastructure like power grids or transportation systems, and even certain types of AI-powered hiring tools.
Okay, so it's not about like banning these technologies altogether,
Right.
but it's about making sure that they're used in a way that minimizes the risk.
Yeah, exactly. Minimizing those risks.
Okay.
And for high-risk AI, the Act lays down some pretty strict rules.
Okay.
Rigorous testing, high data quality standards, human oversight.
Yeah.
Companies using this type of AI will have a lot of hoops to jump through.
Yeah, to make sure they're playing by the rules.
Absolutely.
And what about the less risky stuff? Where does that fit into this pyramid?
So the next level down is limited risk AI,
Okay.
where the focus is primarily on transparency.
Okay.
So think about interacting with a chatbot online.
Yeah.
The Act says companies have to be upfront about whether you're talking to a human or an AI.
Okay, so no more like hiding behind algorithms and pretending.
Yeah, no more sneaky bots.
Gotcha. So transparency is key.
Transparency is key.
And then what about like AI that poses almost no risk?
Right.
I mean, like spam filters and things that we all kind of rely on.
Yeah, that falls into the minimal risk category
Okay.
at the base of our pyramid. And for the most part, that stuff's pretty much unregulated.
Right.
But what's really fascinating is that the same technology can actually fall into different risk categories depending on how it's used.
Oh, so context is everything.
Context is everything.
Could you give us an example of that?
Sure. So take facial recognition technology.
Go ahead.
Using it for real-time police surveillance in public spaces.
Yeah.
That's prohibited except in very specific cases.
Okay.
But using it to unlock your phone.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine under the Act.
So the technology itself isn't inherently good or bad.
Exactly.
It's all about how it's applied.
It's all about how it's applied, and the Act recognizes that nuance.
That's a crucial takeaway. Now, besides these different risk categories,
Yeah.
there's also this concept of general purpose AI, or GPAI,
That's right.
that the Irish ministers mentioned.
The ministers welcomed that the Act acknowledges that AI is not a monolith.
Okay.
GPAI is defined in the document EU Legislation in Progress
Okay.
as being those AI systems that can be used for a wide range of purposes.
Okay.
It's almost like a Swiss Army knife of AI.
Yeah, I see.
And even seemingly harmless GPAI has to meet certain baseline transparency rules.
Okay.
Things like clear documentation and respect for copyright.
No more black box algorithm.
Exactly. Transparency is key here as well. But then it goes further than that.
Yeah.
Within GPAI, there's another layer of scrutiny for what the Act calls systemic risk AI.
Okay.
This is where things can get a little technical.
Well, feel free to break it down for us.
Okay, so think of systemic risk AI as those systems that are so powerful they could have society-wide impacts.
Well,
The Act uses a measure called FLOPs, or floating point operations per second, to identify them.
FLOPs.
FLOPs, yeah. Essentially, it measures an AI's processing power.
Okay.
The more FLOPs, the smarter the AI.
So the higher the FLOPs, the greater the potential for things to go wrong on a large scale.
Exactly. Imagine a powerful AI system used to create incredibly realistic fake news videos.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That could undermine trust in media and have serious consequences for democracy.
Right.
That's a truly systemic impact.
For sure.
These high FLOP systems face the most stringent requirements under the Act.
Okay.
Constant risk assessment, incident reporting, top-notch cybersecurity.
Yeah.
The stakes are really high with this type of AI.
It sounds like the Act is trying to sort of anticipate potential problems before they even arise.
That's exactly right. It's trying to get ahead of the curve.
But of course, putting rules on paper is one thing.
Yeah.
The big question is, how will all this be enforced?
Right.
Who's going to make sure that companies actually follow these rules?
That is the million-dollar question.
And from what I've gathered, it seems like enforcement is going to be a key challenge for the AI Act. It definitely is.
So should we dive into the nitty-gritty of enforcement next?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack how the Act plans to hold AI developers accountable.
All right, let's get into it. So the AI Act puts a lot of emphasis on what it calls market surveillance authorities in each EU country.
So we're not talking about some faceless EU bureaucracy.
Right.
It's actually authorities right here in Ireland who will be responsible for making sure companies are following the Act.
Yeah, they'll have the power to investigate potential violations, issue fines, and even pull non-compliant AI systems off the market.
Wow, so some real teeth there.
Yeah, there are some serious consequences for companies that don't comply.
But is it really realistic, though, to expect these national authorities to effectively police something as complex as AI?
That's a valid question.
Especially something that's constantly evolving so rapidly.
Yeah, it's a big challenge for sure. And it's something that's raised in some of the documents you sent over.
Yeah. What are some of the concerns there? Well, one of the key questions is whether relying on providers to self-assess the risks of their own AI is going to be enough.
Yeah. I mean, I can see how that could be a problem.
Yeah, you're basically asking companies to be objective about their own potentially harmful tech.
Right.
It's a tricky situation.
So is there any way to kind of mitigate that risk?
Well, the Act does lay out some requirements for these self-assessments, but it's definitely something that will need to be closely monitored.
And what about from the perspective of individuals?
Right.
I mean, what happens if someone feels they've been unfairly impacted by an AI system?
That's another important point.
Do they have any recourse?
Well, that's a bit of a gray area right now.
Okay.
The Act doesn't explicitly give individuals the right to sue over harms caused by AI.
Oh, wow.
You can file a complaint, but there's no guarantee of legal action.
So it's kind of up in the air.
Yeah, it'll be up to national legal systems to interpret the Act and determine how individual rights can be protected.
So potentially something that could be tested in the courts down the line.
Absolutely. It's something to keep an eye on, for sure.
Okay, so we've talked about, the risk categories, the enforcement mechanisms, all very important. But let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture.
Sure.
The Irish ministers, they highlighted the Act's commitment to making the EU a leader in ethical and trustworthy AI.
Right.
Which suggests that this is about more than just regulation.
It is. It's about shaping the future of AI globally.
So how does the EU plan to do that?
Well, the Act is just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
Okay.
The EU is investing heavily in AI research and development, promoting responsible innovation, and even trying to shape global standards for AI.
That's ambitious.
It is ambitious, but the EU is a major economic power.
Right.
And it has a strong track record on data protection.
Yeah.
So it's definitely in a good position to influence how AI develops globally.
Right.
And for a small, open economy like Ireland, being at the heart of this push for ethical AI could have significant economic benefits.
Okay, so we've looked at, the risk categories, the enforcement mechanisms, the EU's broader AI strategy.
Yeah.
But let's get down to brass tacks.
Okay.
How does the AI Act affect real people in Ireland?
Right.
What kind of practical changes can we expect to see?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because the Act covers a wide range of applications, from healthcare to transportation to finance.
Right.
its impact is going to be felt in almost every aspect of our lives.
So what are some concrete examples?
Okay, well, let's take the healthcare sector, for example.
Okay.
AI is already being used to diagnose diseases, analyze medical images, and even personalize treatment plans.
Which has the potential to really revolutionize healthcare.
It does. It have huge potential.
But of course, there are risks involved.
Of course.
So how does the Act address those?
Well, the Act puts safeguards in place to ensure that these AI systems are used safely and responsibly.
Okay, what kind of safeguards are we talking about?
For example, any AI system used for medical diagnosis will have to undergo rigorous testing and certification to ensure its accuracy and reliability.
So patients can be confident that the AI is actually augmenting the expertise of their doctors.
Yeah. It's not replacing doctors.
That's helping them.
It's a tool to help them make better decisions.
Okay. And because the Act emphasizes data protection,
yes,
patients can also be assured that their sensitive medical data is being handled responsibly.
Absolutely. Data privacy is a top priority.
And what about other sectors?
Okay.
What kind of changes can we expect to see there?
Well, in the financial sector, for example, AI is increasingly being used to assess credit risk, detect fraud, and even provide personalized financial advice.
That sounds convenient, but also a bit risky.
It can be risky, which is why the Act mandates that these systems are transparent and explainable.
Okay, so if you're denied a loan, for example, you have the right to know why.
Exactly. You have a right to an explanation.
The algorithm can't just be a black box.
No more black boxes.
Okay. And what about things like social scoring?
Right. Well, the Act puts limits on the use of AI for social scoring in finance.
Okay.
So that algorithms can't unfairly discriminate against individuals based on their socioeconomic status.
So it's about making sure that the AI is used fairly.
Exactly.
And it doesn't perpetuate existing inequalities.
It's about promoting fairness and equity.
Okay. And it's not just about protecting individuals, right? The Act also addresses broader societal concerns.
Absolutely.
What kind of things?
Well, for example, it puts strict limits on the use of AI for biometric identification in public spaces.
Oh, that was a key point highlighted in that questions and answers document, right?
Yeah, it specifically addresses the use of facial recognition technology by law enforcement. While there are very limited exceptions, the Act essentially bans the use of real-time facial recognition for mass surveillance.
Which is a major win for privacy advocates.
It is a big step towards protecting people's privacy.
What about other uses of facial recognition?
Right.
Like unlocking our phones.
Those are considered lower risk and are still permitted under the Act.
So again, it comes down to context and the potential for harm.
Exactly. The Act tries to draw a line between acceptable and unacceptable uses of this technology.
And as AI technology continues to evolve, that line may need to be redrawn.
I probably will.
So it's crucial to have a robust legal framework in place.
Absolutely.
To guide its development.
The AI Act provides that framework.
Okay, so it seems like this Act is going to have a major impact on how we live, work, interact with technology in the years to come.
It's going to change things in ways we can't even imagine yet.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the Act's risk-based approach, the challenges of enforcement, the EU's broader AI strategy, and even some of the specific ways the Act is likely to affect our lives.
Right.
But you also sent over some documents that delve into some of the ethical considerations around AI.
Yes.
Which is a whole other can of worms.
It is a big topic.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
Let's talk about the ethical dilemmas posed by AI.
Right.
And how the AI Act tries to address those.
Let's get into it.
We've talked a lot about, the technical side of the AI Act.
Yeah.
But what about the human side of things?
Right.
What are some of the ethical dilemmas that come up when we talk about AI?
That's a really important question, and it's something that's touched on in the Artificial Intelligence Questions and Answers document.
Okay.
One of the biggest ethical concerns is bias.
Bias. Oh.
AI systems are trained on data, right?
Right.
And if that data reflects existing societal biases, the AI can end up perpetuating those biases.
Oh, wow. So it's not just a neutral tool. It can actually kind of amplify those existing biases.
Exactly, and the consequences can be really significant.
Like what kind of consequences are we talking about?
Well, people being denied opportunities unfairly.
Right.
Because of their gender, their race, their socioeconomic background.
Yeah, that's a very worrying thought.
It is a concern.
Does the AI Act do anything to address that?
It does. The Act specifically requires high-risk AI systems to be developed and used in a way that minimizes the risk of bias.
So how do they actually do that?
Well, it means using diverse and representative data sets for training.
Okay.
And ensuring that the systems are regularly audited to identify and mitigate any potential biases.
So it's not just about building AI systems that are, technically sophisticated.
Right.
It's about making sure that they're fair and equitable.
It's about building AI that works for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a really important principle.
Now, another ethical dilemma that I think a lot of people are thinking about is this whole question of accountability.
Accountability is huge.
If an AI system makes a mistake, who's responsible?
Exactly who takes the blame.
Is it the developer?
Right.
Is it the user?
Right.
Is it the AI itself?
That's a really tough question. And honestly, it's one that legal scholars are still grappling with.
Yeah.
The AI Act doesn't provide a definitive answer, but it does establish a framework for liability. That will likely be tested in the courts in the years to come.
So it's a work in progress.
It is a work in progress for sure, but the important thing is that we're starting to have these conversations now before AI becomes so integrated into our lives that it's difficult to control.
Right.
We need to be proactive about these ethical challenges.
And that brings us back to, the Irish minister's statement welcoming the act.
Right.
I mean, they seem to see this as a positive step.
They do.
Not just for Ireland, but for the world.
They see it as a model for other countries to follow.
And do you agree with that assessment?
I think it's hard to disagree. The AI Act is a landmark piece of legislation.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. No law is, but it's a significant step towards ensuring that AI is developed and used in a way that benefits humanity while minimizing the risks.
And for Ireland, I mean, being at the forefront of this global movement towards ethical AI could have, significant implications.
It could really put Ireland on the map as a hub for responsible AI development.
Yeah, for sure.
Which could bring in investment and talent.
So this is not just, some abstract legal document.
No.
This is something that has the potential to really shape our future.
It's going to have real-world impacts on people's lives.
So to our listeners, if you're interested in learning more about the AI Act,
yes, please do your own research.
And its implications, I encourage you to check out the resources we've mentioned today.
There's a lot of information out there.
And to stay engaged in this really important conversation.
It's a conversation that we all need to be part of.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of AI regulation.
Thanks for having me.